it's Rainy, and today I want to share with you my process for building and designing in Dinkum. Now, I am absolutely no expert, and there are so many creators out there who are so much better at doing amazing, incredible builds, but I just thought it might be fun to share my process. We all have our own ways of building and designing. So if this will help someone who hasn't tried Dinkum, hasn't really been playing any kind of decorative build games, and you really want to try building and decorating, I thought maybe it would help to share at least one way of thinking about your builds. So I used the words steps, but honestly I think calling these different steps phases would probably be a little bit more of an accurate term. Not necessarily following the steps in order. You can kind of go back and forth with the different phases of building and developing and designing, so you'll see what I mean as I continue to share with you my process. This is basically from my own experiences and watching other people and learning from them as well. So I made a sheet here that I want to share with you, and it just gives you the steps for the process that I'm kind of thinking in my head as I'm building. So I won't read it all completely right now because we're going to break them down into each different phase. So if you want to take a screenshot and save it, and I would be happy to know if it helps you. So let's take a look at step 1. I like to choose a location on my map and actually mark it on my map so that if it doesn't already have a marker, like it's not a building that's already in the game, I won't forget where I'm working. So that's something that I thought would be helpful to point out. And the second step is your survival, and I had to learn this the hard way. Just make sure you keep food in a sleeping bag close to you as you need it, because sometimes you get so involved in your build and you don't even realize that you're being attacked until you hear the sound of that music that reminds you, and then by that time it's too late. You don't have time to grab your tools that you need or your weapon and defend yourself. So that's something that I definitely wanted to make sure I share with you. Step 3 or phase 3 is preparing. Obviously you have to prepare the land that you want to use. Some people completely clear it out. Some people keep a little bit because they can work with the land that's there. But you want to get and use the tools to clear the land, craft, collect, and gather the items that you'll want to use for your build. And you can place a chest for the stuff that you'll find, because believe me when I tell you, your pockets will fill up fast. Obviously it depends on where you are in the game. If you're using the dev commands, everything's going to be so much easier. But if you're you're playing the game the way that it's normally unfolding, you might not have all those power tools yet. But you can still do a build. It doesn't have to be a fancy build. And if you'd like to see an early island build done, let me know, because I'm working on one. So step 4 brings us into the organizing and planning phase, and some people really plan their builds and they do these incredible, amazing builds. I'm kind of more of I do smaller builds and kind of wing it, but you can place and use chests in an easily accessible area to organize and store what you'll use and plan your layout. Have fun. That's the only thing I think you should always do, is just have a good time. Now step 5 is the build, the actual getting your tools, using the tools to configure your foundation and your layout. You can obviously adjust as you go, and I have to do that a lot. It's okay to change your mind. And if you have a build you're working on where you're looking at a reference, you kind of know what the layout's going to be, so that helps. Step 6. This is my favorite part, decorating. Just when you have everything laid out the way you want it and you're happy with it, you can just start decorating, trying lots of different items until you're pleased with how it looks. And that's pretty much what I do. And like I said, I go back and forth sometimes between each of the different phases. When you're all done, you can sit back, relax, enjoy your favorite drink while admiring your beautiful new area. And remember, if you're not happy with it, you can always go back and change it. And if you do find yourself getting frustrated at any point, just take a break. Come back to it with fresh eyes. So having said all of that and sharing my thinking, let me show you some of the steps that I used on this build that I did for my Tranquil Gardens. So I obviously did the steps and the phases where I cleared out the land, I built my foundation, and this is the foundation that I'm pretty much starting with. The bridge isn't perfectly lined up, but that's okay. Things don't always have to line up perfectly. The next part of this build, I wanted to line the outer perimeter with the beautiful jacaranda trees. So I just alternated an empty space within each of the different trees because I wanted to leave room in case I want to put some lights in between there. After that, I was thinking about what kind of structural materials I want to use for the walls. I finally came up with a little pattern here that you can see, and I wanted to put the mushroom path in where I'm going to add the water beds because I think it really makes the water look really beautiful and blue. I want this to look magical, so I added a lot of the flower beds along the walls. As you can see all the way around, I put in ferns, bushes, and glow buttons to give it more of a little bit of a subtle light. And you can see that we're in spring, so the jacaranda trees are beautiful colored with their lavender, and I have a big tree in the middle with bushes. I'm starting to play around with the lighting too and adding foliage in the water area. You're gonna see me play around with that fountain a little bit more because it's just too big for this area. I don't want it to be so crowded. I love putting the trees down low so they look like bushes, and I did get that idea from watching a lot of other creators who do that. So here I also played around with the fountain a little bit more here, and I added the fairy wall lights, which I love, just love. But again, that fountain, I'm just not quite feeling it, so you're going to see that change a little bit as well. And I also took out the bottle brush because, I don't know, I'm trying not to use as much red in this build because I tend to use red a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final tour. Did forget one last little touch that I wanted to do, so you'll see what that is in just a few minutes. It's in the daytime. Spring is over. Now it's summer, and so the jacaranda trees are no longer lavender, but I think it looks pretty good still. It definitely feels like a tranquil garden. Here's what I wanted to add. I had forgotten all about adding the little plushy bird that I've seen so many people do, so many creators do that, and it looks so good. So thanks for watching. I hope you're all enjoying the game as much as I am, and happy gaming.